Namo myoho renge kyo, namo myoho renge kyo, namo myoho renge kyo. I really hope this finds you in good health and secure. You know, I want to start the letter to the Brothers Go show today. We're talking about karma in this series. And we got a question from someone in the Sangha. It's a question that, it's interesting. It's the nature of Sangha, right? That certain topics bubble up repeatedly. I mean, look at the teaching of Buddhism. It's a systematic repetition of the same concepts over and over and over again, albeit over time with a little bit more depth, a little bit more, what about this way of looking at? What about if this happens? What about if you throw this into the mix? And, because that's life. And I really believe this. I don't think there's another philosophy, and I've studied a few, or religion, that is so, even though it may not seem this way, ultimately Buddhism is incredibly self-analyzing. And by that I mean we truly are faced with this ultimate question of how do I work? How do I? How do I me? What am I doing, being? Forget the why. I hate that question because it's a trap of silly attachments and it all is. But why assumes some kind of a mystical purpose. Buddhism is so much more pragmatic. It is the essence of pragmatism. And everything leads back to not just why do I think this way? There's that why. How do I think this way? A little bit more interesting question, yeah? And then ultimately, do I think? Where's the I in all of this? Letter to the Brothers is a long letter about accepted cultural expectations, traditions. The eldest son is always the one. That's the way it is. The first thing we really start to run into as we practice Buddhism is the tremendous amount of assumptions we have of givens. Do you know what I mean? Assumptions of, all the cliches, right? That's the way it is. Or one of my absolute most annoying, it is, what is it? Oh gosh, I just heard it last night in a show on television. I thought, gosh, I just can't get away from this. It is what it is. Man, that one really irritates me. It means nothing, but it's stated as though it's some great Socratic aha. Oh, it is what it is. Oh, brilliant. Unfortunately, it is what it is different for everyone for whom it is. At the moment that it is, whatever it is. It's just such mind pablum. In fact, it's not even pablum, because that would imply that it feeds. There's no nutrition in it at all. Okay, so what am I... I know it all sounds like word salad right now. Believe me, at some point, I will make some sense of all of this. If you've watched me for any amount of time, I hope you have some confidence in that. So, Catalina, thank you. for your question. The question has come up in this Sangha several times. I used to be on a forum called Quora, I think. And that was great for a few years. I don't have a lot of tolerance for trolls. Maybe I'm old-fashioned that way. But yeah, it just got too stinky over there, so I got off of Quora. I'm sure a lot of my answers, I never took anything down, so still a lot on that forum. But I'm not engaged with it at all anymore. The reason I bring it up is because this question of relationships in myriad forms, it resurfaces all the time. And that's because our practice of Buddhism calls into question how we are in a relationship, how we respond in a relationship. It's all about how truly our mind works. And in Buddhism, you're going to be questioning that constantly. That's what every sutra is about. And ultimately, the method of Buddhism, the method of enlightenment, the awakening that we're all wanting to achieve and maintain is about working with, training, day to day, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Right? Bert. In fact, think about that. I talk about that all the time. Moment to moment, Bert. Why is it called birth-death? Because that's the rhetoric we use to define a beginning and an end. But there is no beginning and end in life. There is a manifestation of energies constantly agitated, instantiating, dissolving, instantiating again, dissolving, instantiating again, dissolving. That instantiation has with it everything's moving, everything's momentum through time-space. So to say that there's a beginning and an end negates this whole movement aspect of life. That's the primary illusion of samsara. That's why we're attached to things, data collecting things, making a warehouse of identity of things. Because we mistaken this stream of energy and we get locked into this temporary ephemeral point. It's a location in time-space. And the moment we perceive it and start to label it, it's already gone. But samsarically, we want to hang on to that moment. We want to make that moment permanent. It's something we have, we own. Isn't it good enough to experience something? No. Can't truly experience it unless you take it home. Unless it stains you somehow, that you can maintain its existence. Buddha identified this as the root of suffering, because you're trying to cling to something that's no longer there. Appreciate it as it's instantiating, being. You know, we need to change our language maybe. I don't know if that would help. Maybe for a while, and then it would just be the order of the day. Instead of, I have a guitar, I have guitaring. At this moment, I'm guitaring. And I'm not guitaring all the time. When I put it down and I walk away, no longer guitaring. If we thought in terms of momentum, verbs, action, that's how life works. Why do I say all of this? We can spend a tremendous amount of time, and we do. It's part of our samsaric, probably one of our strongest samsaric distractions. It's the reason why the first decades of Shakyamuni's teachings, he cloistered everyone into a box. Be a good monk, live in this building. Don't go out there unless you're asking for food or support, and then hide again, and then chant, recite, learn, think about your mind. Don't engage with the other sex. Can't do that. That'll totally blow your mind. Your capacity for enlightenment, gone. You smiled at a woman. Right? Think about it. You could say at the first, 42 years, they estimate, of Shakyamuni's teachings, were all about relationships. Primarily, his focus and Buddhism's focus is about our relationship with our own mind. That's the first relationship. We have a samsaric mind, and we have a potential in this mind for Buddha, a very adult, parental, teaching, sovereign mind. You can wrap those up in Buddha wisdom. Again, we can pick out lots of terms in Buddhism to identify this quality of life that liberates us from all the juvenile attachments of stuff. The stuff that gives us a warm fuzzy in our lizard brain. Right? Not lizard brain because it's a lesser thing. Lizard because it's part of what makes us. It's our 8 consciousnesses. Yeah, it's a really big part of just being this apparatus that emerges the mind. Absolutely critical to our existence. So no wonder it has such a hold on us, right? Who would question the beating of your heart or the breathing of your lungs or your need for fuel, food, protection from the elements, and sex? Well, of course. We can't continue this experiment of human existence if we're not procreating. It's very, very, very built in to the apparatus of being. You could almost say it's mindless, right? We like to fancy ourselves great judges and qualifiers, right? You women know this. They've heard all the rhetoric over the decades of the biological imperative, the time clock of breeding, right? You women are more in tune to that procreating thing than any man. Men are just the brute tool to facilitate that action. Conversely, men, and we criticize them in society, but men aren't as attached to the product of reproduction, although their egos are much attached, in different ways. Certainly different than a woman. A woman is attached freaking physically. A man can't know that experience. Nor can a woman understand, although she can admire and appreciate, a man's possessive sensation and expression through the child growing into an adult. It has the potential to make men really poor examples of parenting because their ego is so admired in their relationship with the child, right? Whereas a woman's ego is satisfied at this confusing, because it is confusing, procreation of a being. It keeps blowing her mind. Her humility in that is something the man doesn't understand, right? And his possession of something that didn't come through him as a tool of representation is something she struggles with. I mean, men and women, right? And I don't get into all the pronouns. It's all, that drives me crazy too. Side rant, I won't get into that now. That's a different topic. So again, the simple question, why is it that in my life I react to certain people, and sexes matter? If a man says something to me and a woman says something to me, could be exactly the same words, the same tone, could be almost the same voice. As long as I know that one is a woman or one is a man, the same words I will receive and have an impression of and react to differently. Even if I tell myself, well, yeah, same answer. The mind is there's so much going on. Remember, 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. Always remember that. No matter how positive you feel that your reaction to something is dead on, please understand that you're so many nanoseconds behind the ball that whatever thought you think you're having is a result of so many other things that influence, right? Karma, energy. The way you hear, the way you see, experience, all of it. And that expression that you're so certain of, it's a house of cards. You have to start with that perception, understanding that it leads you to the question of what is karma. And that's why I'm talking about this today, before we start this letter to the brothers, because it's very much a question about karma. Unfortunately, we usually ask the question in terms of, do I react this way to this question or this statement from other people, or their demeanor, or whatever it is, the relationship thing, right? Father, lover, son, daughter, all of that matrix. The bottom line is the essential aspect of this question. Why do I respond to stimuli from other beings in the way that I respond? Are they, in other words, influencing me and I'm responding to the influence? That would be nice, right? That would be so simple to understand. It's a simple equation, right? When somebody behaves in a certain way, it makes me feel a certain way, so I respond a certain way. That's kind of how we see life. That's how a psychiatrist kind of sees life. A little deeper than that. Don't mean to insult any psychiatrists. But, medical research about the human experience is a cataloging of events. There barely is, neuroscience now is kind of looking into what's going on electronically and biologically in the brain to find this thing called the mind in the brain. They're just beginning to ask questions in there, right? My favorite is the one with, and I'm going to mess up the names now, Roger Penrose teaming up with that biologist, scientist, about tubules in the brain and the quantum nature before a thought arises or anything arises that is cataloged in the synapses of the mind. There are something called tubules where quantum events may be detected, and therefore the instantiations of potential decisions, non-decisions have. That's a critical point, yeah? What is consciousness? That's what they're looking at. And they're barely just, they're thinking about it at least. But before that, I mean, Buddhism is so far down that path. They're trying to trace it physically. Well, ultimately, it's kind of a fool's errand, isn't it? But they're finding in the physical matrix of the brain this quantum is not the very thing Buddhism discusses from the word go. The mind. How big is it? How small is it? Where is it? Yes, all of this is about karma. Because what is karma? So often, I just received my issue of Tricycle. It's filled with hogwash about karma. It's filled to the brim. Makes These are noted Buddhists. And still they're trapped in the samsaric mindset. Karma's what makes you do this. Karma is all our suffering. No, what? No. It's not your karma to feel insulted at what somebody else is expressing. You know what's missing there? Is the bridge, the Buddha-ness bridge. Let's call it the Buddha bridge. Okay? Hopefully I'll remember I've invented a new term, the Buddha bridge. Because from the first perception that you are a separate being from them, and that they say with words, right? How many steps, how many realms, how many billions of realms that you instantiate through time, right? Movement, moment to moment, moment to moment. In all those moments till blah, 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 words come out. How many decisions have been made? And how many filters have those decisions gone through? How many words were thrown aside and others collected and some just thrown in because they're convenient? And out of your mouth comes this statement. And you hear it at the same time it comes out of your mouth. Oh, look, I just said that. How many billions of decisions went into that word salad that just came out of your mind? Do you expect the person who's hearing it to understand all of those decisions? Hell no. They've got their own. As each word is coming into their ears and their ear consciousness and their drifting mind on many things and them looking at your clothes and the weather and... You girls know what I mean. A little bit. Right? You're watching the guy, if you're talking to a guy, or even another girl, you're watching their eyes while you're talking. So when you're talking, are you really paying attention to what you're saying, or are you watching their reaction and how they're seeing you? And, oh my gosh, there's a lot of ego in all this, isn't there? And if they come back with something that at that moment, because it has nothing to do with what you just said, at that moment, your perception now, as you're making 3,000 decisions every single moment, doesn't resonate well with you, do you then consider that appropriate, inappropriate, hogwash in relation to what you just said? Because you're so many miles apart now, it's incredible. Do you see what I'm saying? Think of every moment to moment, moving through time as like a shock wave. Okay? And by the time the words, which are new shock waves, they're introducing into, you can almost see these shock waves like radiating, let's give them a slight curve, and your words going blah, 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 right through them, making their own, disturbing the shock waves. And then the other person, which could be you, your eardrum receiving shock waves, has these shock waves that are meeting the other shock waves because you have your own momentum. And you have together momentum because both of you are moving through time. And then they respond with another set of blah, blah, blah coming toward you. Yeah, I mean, there's all these waves. I mean, think of those waves of energy as like border crossings. There's just in a simple question and a response between two people, there are billions of border crossing happening in those moments. So, how do you react? Do you react out of karma? Well, karma is energy with action, but it has so little to do with what the words are saying, what the thoughts are going through the minds. It's insane if you really start taking it apart and thinking about it. This is why you've heard me say before, and in these videos that I posted maybe 7 years ago about relationships, I constantly say, I am astounded that we can communicate to one another at all. We think we are. Maybe that's something. Right? It kind of negates this whole thing that I'm doing. I have to believe, I have to focus my heart with my mind, and my motivation in momentum, in speaking my experience, my Buddhist practice with you through these videos and podcasts, isn't so much that you hear my words, it's my intent that I want you to receive. That's where I feel confident. I want you to perceive my attitude and my intent. And these words are just sound vibrations carrying that attitude and intent to your mind and heart, that you can stir within yourself your own insights to lead you to your Buddha-ness, your portal of Buddha-ness, because Buddha-ness is Buddha-ness, right? And what's that portal called? Please, after all the 50-some videos on Mandala and Gohonzon, I hope you understand that portal is Gohonzon, not the scroll. But now I digress. Karma. Karma is energy working. So do you respond to others because of your karma? You're responding to yourself because of your karma. Karma is just karma. What's more important in relationships, most important in relationships, get off that karma thing, because every thought, word, deed moment to moment, 3,000 different choices. It's about your attitude and your intent. So let's reframe this situation. And somehow I ended up with girl, boy. But that's fine, because of all relationships on the samsaric plane, isn't that the most charged? It's the most lizard brain, because procreation. So let's deal with that one. Is your attitude when you communicate to another human, the opposite sex in this example, that they are a brilliant Buddha? That your communication, whatever it's about, I don't care if it's about type of pizza or whether you're going to become pregnant or a new job, I don't care what it's about. The subject, that's samsara. I don't give a crap. And this is the first problem we have, because we attach all our egos and our identity to what I'm talking about. It matters not a bit. Attitude and intent. If your attitude and intent with other beings, I don't care what the sex is about upholding, supporting, being amazed by, Bodhisattva never disparaging. A whole chapter in the Lotus Sutra about this, and goes right over our heads. Treated everyone with the potential of Buddha-ness. Would you consider having a child with me, Madam Buddha-ness? Do you understand the profundity of what I'm asking you? And on the receiving end, the respect that you're giving me, the vaulted place in the moment-to-moment expression of life that you're inquiring of me. You brilliant Buddha thing, presence, right? Entity of Buddha-ness fills me with so much, it makes me want to cry. Attitude and intent. I want to ask you a question. What now? Oh. This is what the Buddha bridge. If your mind, your attitude, and your intent in your relationships, communicated verbally, physically, is this bodhisattva mind, right? Then you're bridging your life experience moment to moment to moment directly to their life experience moment to moment to moment to moment. There's no confusion there. Now think back to when Nichiren wrote in his letter to, was it Shijo Kingo? And he said to him, when you make love to your wife, both of you should chant at the same time in equanimity, right? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, while you're in coitus. That sounds like such an, what? Nichiren said that? Yeah. Because this is what he was talking about. If your minds are going to coalesce, be in sync, if you want the ultimate relationship in life, then you need to replicate, really, the relationship you're trying to receive in your own mind. One, equanimity, appreciation, respect, dignity. They're right. You can give one to but it's a seesaw of the same thing. Now the relationship, it cannot do anything else but function, because the goal is Buddha-ness. But the 148,394.5 thoughts that go through your mind while you're expressing to somebody a question, or even the ovation to a question, well, you and I know it's not really about the question. That may be the goal, but so many other things are going on. And the other person, they sense it. What do you want now? Oh man, how many thoughts just went into that statement? Sure, give me a minute, I'll finish this. There are so many thoughts happening that are not verbal. Shockwaves, borders. See, we think we're communicating, but that's not really communication, is it? I don't know what you want to call it, but we fool ourselves if we think we're really communicating with words. Language is it's a poor communicator. And one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, language is a poor communicator is because it's not really a communicator. It's a representation of intents, which have boatloads of attitude and intentions behind them. So it's always veiled. Everything kind of leads to something. That's why we have such long discourses on things, because we have to circumlocute ideas to nausea before we could start to go, okay, I think I know what you mean now. Or that's at its best. At its worst, we assume we know what somebody means from 1 to a dozen words. Oh, I know what you mean. The hell you do. But this is how humans conduct samsara, yeah? Yeah, so, if you find yourself, so let's bring this back home, okay? If you find yourself, this video may just be about relationships. I don't think I'm going to get to the actual letter to the brothers. But that's okay, because I think we need shaking this out a little bit is going to help us as we get back into Nichiren's and the translations of Nichiren on Buddhism. So what should you do? If you're struggling with a relationship, or even if you're not struggling so much, but you're not sure about yourself, you're having doubts, like, why do I react this way all the time? Some of you may know what I'm about to say. So let me see how I can put this differently. Stop thinking. Like that's even possible. The great Zen experiment, yeah. You can't stop thinking any more than you can kill off your mind. It's like, well, I really want to rest tonight, so I'm going to turn my heart off and give it a rest. And I'll start it back up in the morning. Let's see if that works. You can't stop thinking. But you can train your thinking. This is the essential teaching of Shakyamuni. Where do you need to go with your thoughts? Not this at what if, did he mean this? Did she mean that? What if we do this? How will that work out? Blah, 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 blah. Samsara, attachments, what do I do? There's only one thing to do. Buddha, Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Adopt an attitude. Perhaps this is a tool you could use. When you find yourself, those emotions, right? Those great emotions. And believe me, I know this for myself. So I'm hearing myself as much as I'm hoping you hear me. Sometimes things come up so fast. Really, really difficult to go, shut up, monkey. Some of my monkey minds, they're full-on gorillas, okay? And I have to stop them somehow. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. That worked. A little bit. Let me do it some more. Bodhisattva never disparaging. Read that chapter again. It's about relationships. When you start thinking you know what somebody meant, or you start thinking, I'm reacting in this way, and I do this a lot, turn your mind toward Buddha. Because your Buddha-ness understands all this. It's not confusing to Buddha-ness. It's samsaric. It's your mind of ego and attachment that doesn't understand it. Because it wants to own stability, knowing I am this. And anything that just slightly teeters that long pole of a ego that you're on the top of, react, good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Shut up. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. You'll laugh at it. I guarantee you will find humor in your own mind's behavior. Monkeys are silly. As soon as they get the attention they crave, they crap on it. That's the monkey. That's samsara. And you may, and believe me, I'm not making fun of you or picking on you. I know this can be a very, very, very profound identity crisis. It's exactly in the words. Questioning your own reason for going on. I say that dramatically, but it truly can be, feel like. And so I'm urging you, chant. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. You can feel it washing out of you. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Go sit in front of your Butsudan, stare at Myo Ho on the scroll. Namo Myo Renge, Buddha, Buddha. Chant until you feel the joy. Chant until you feel the release. Chant until you don't know why you're chanting. Especially that. Other than, caveat, Buddha. You're invoking Buddha. You just need to invoke that ninth consciousness until it wraps fully around the other 8. As we've discussed in Wuji to You and Me. Yeah, look it up. It's in the big book of Buddhism. It's on the website, threefoldlotus.com, Wuji to You and Me. There's videos on it. It's about the 9 consciousnesses, yeah? There are other 9 consciousnesses videos. But the one, Wuji to You and Me, is the one where I have one of those rare moments when I use a whiteboard and I illustrate. I have others. I think. I have a chart. PowerPoint. Our friend PowerPoint on threefoldlotus.com. Yeah, you can download it. It'll help you have a visual that order of things. So yeah, relationships. Relationships are tough in samsara. But if you base your relationships, all your relationships, all the time, including, of course, the one we have with ourselves. That's the model. That's the model that needs to be expressed moment to moment with everyone and everything, because they're not separate. That's you're talking to. Maybe that's a good tool. That Buddha bridge is you talking to you in some different expressed form. Does that bring it closer to your heart? How can I visualize and describe this with words so that you really get what I'm saying about relationships? Because truth is, in Buddhism, if you finally really engage your Buddha-ness and hang on to it in samsara, you won't see others. You will see others in you and you in others, and eventually equanimity. Why would you wish harm on you in another form? You could ask this of many different things. Why not wish Buddha-ness on yourself in every form? But Sylvain, that's impossible. Yeah, I didn't say it was easy. But what I am saying to you is that in those moments when you're critical, when your mind is swirling with doubt and emotions and you don't know how to react, and did you do the right thing and did you not? Did you add the... For the sake of your sanity and all of humanity, chant. Because you'll find it just isn't so dramatic. In fact, the drama that it is so far elevated from that cacophony of suffering, pain, doubt. Oh yeah, Buddhism. Nowhere other than relationships do we find a profundity of Buddhist teaching. And yet we're so quick to dismiss it. So again, I remind you, attitude, intent, it's everything. You are a beautiful, wonderful, amazing expression of the entire universe. And the universe is a wonderful, beautiful, amazing expression of you. How could there be contention? And if you identify contention, your attitude and intent need bolstering. You're just slipping into the monkeys. They're there all the time. Cool. If they weren't, we wouldn't emerge this amazing mind of perception, of witnessing, of driving the experience of life, rather than being driven by the cacophony. Right? Parent, teacher, sovereign. All right. Yeah, I think on that note, well, I've invented some new terms today. We've got the Buddha bridge. I don't think I'll forget that one. There were a couple of others I've already forgotten. I hope some of that reached you. I hope that you feel more powerful, more in control, mostly more confident in your ability, in your practice to raise your Buddha mind more and more loving, connected. Because when you don't feel loving and connected, you're in the hell of incessant suffering. Don't be there, as Mr. Miyagi would say. No be there. Suddenly felt this love for you guys. Yeah, sometimes this practice can really knock you on your ass. But that's okay. Dust yourself off. Re-engage with the amazement of being alive. Your practice. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you, Nichiren. Thank you, Shakyamuni. Thank you, Engine of Life. You're amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Right? Like and subscribe. Let's get more people on this train, yeah? It's so important. It's our bodhisattva effort, right? People need to know this stuff. Take care of yourself. Take care of your health. Love yourself. And that's everything, isn't it? All right. Hope that wasn't too preachy. I really feel those thoughts sincerely. I've discovered them more and more through my own practice of Buddhism. Yeah, lots of stories there. We're all capable of being very stubborn about our identities. It just takes practice. There it is again. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I'll see you in the next one. I promise we'll get into Nichiren's writing of the letter to the brothers. In the meantime, bye for now.